He was called the Emperor, unstoppable on the pitch and hailed as Brazil's next great hope. Adriano's strength, fame, and fortune made him a global icon. Yet behind every goal, his greatest battle was invisible. What could drive one of football's most gifted strikers to walk away at his peak? The answer begins far from the stadium lights. Vila Cruzeiro sits on the edge of Rio de Janeiro, its narrow streets shaped by hardship and hope in equal measure. This is where Adriano grew up, surrounded by the daily sounds of police sirens, distant gunfire, and the laughter of children chasing battered footballs through dust. For many here, dreams rarely stretched beyond the next meal or a safe night's sleep. But in Adriano's small apartment, there was something different, a constant presence, steady and warm. His father, Almir, worked long hours, but never missed a chance to walk his son to the pitch, repeating the same words each time. Score for us. Football was not just a pastime. It was a lifeline, a promise that something better could exist. At 11, Adriano joined Flamengo's youth academy, stepping onto a path that would change his life. Coaches noticed his raw strength and thunderous left foot, but what set him apart was not just physical. It was the way he listened, the way he pushed through drills, always glancing to the sidelines to find his father's nod of approval. After matches, their ritual never changed. A simple barbecue and a quiet talk about what mattered, family, respect, and the chance to lift those around him. In a community where many boys drifted toward danger, Adriano's bond with Almir kept him grounded and focused. Every goal was more than a number. It was a promise kept, a step closer to lifting his family out of poverty. The drive that would one day make him a star began here, on uneven ground, with a father's steady hand on his shoulder. At just 19, Adriano left behind the crowded streets of Rio for a new world in Europe. Parma was the first stop, a club known for nurturing raw South American talent. The adjustment was immediate and intense. New language, new climate, but the same fierce hunger. On the pitch, his left foot thundered through Serie A defenses, recording 22 goals in 36 appearances across all competitions. Scouts and fans took notice. In 2002, Inter Milan secured his signature, recognizing a force that could not be contained. In Milan, Adriano's power and flair electrified the San Siro. Inter supporters, starved for a new hero, began to call him l'Imperatore, the Emperor. The nickname stuck, echoing through stadiums as he bulldozed through defenders and unleashed shots few goalkeepers could see, let alone stop. During the 2004 to 2005 season, he reached a level few strikers ever touch. 42 goals across all competitions, hat tricks in both Serie A and European matches, and a starring role for Brazil, where he led the national team to Copa America glory and claimed the tournament's golden boot and golden ball. Every goal seemed to carry the promise of a new era, not just for Inter, but for Brazilian football. Fans saw him as the natural heir to Ronaldo and Romario, a player who could dominate any match, any opponent. His contract was extended, his face featured on magazine covers, his name chanted by thousands. For a brief, dazzling stretch, Adriano stood at the very summit of world football, the embodiment of strength, skill, and the hope that anything was possible. August 5th, 2004. The world outside moved as usual, but for Adriano, time collapsed into a single moment. He was in Lima, Peru, still breathing in the afterglow of Copa America glory, when his phone rang in the hotel corridor. The voice on the other end carried news that would split his life in two. His father, Almir, had died of a heart attack back in Rio. The words landed with a force that left no room for denial. Adriano froze, his mind scrambling for any reality but this one. He pressed the phone to his ear, hoping it was a mistake, then let it fall from his hand as the truth settled. A shout echoed down the hallway, raw, unfiltered pain, and then came the tears, heavier than any defender he had ever faced. There were no teammates around him then, no stadium crowd to drown out the sound of heartbreak, just the empty corridor, the sharp ring of the phone still lingering in the air, and a young man suddenly stripped of his anchor. In that instant, all the titles, the goals, the magazine covers, none of it could shield him. The boy from Vila Cruzeiro, who had carried his father's dreams and pride onto every pitch, now found himself alone with a loss too big to carry. He left the hotel in silence, boarded the first flight to Brazil, and returned home not as a football hero, but as a grieving son. The shock would not fade quickly. Friends would later say that something in Adriano dimmed that day, a light gone out behind his eyes. The emperor would play on, but the world had shifted beneath his feet. Javier Zanetti remembers the silence that followed, broken only by Adriano's cries echoing down the hallway. In the days that followed, Inter Milan's president, Massimo Moratti, made a quiet promise to the team. Adriano would not face this grief alone. Moratti told those around him, "We'll take him in like a brother." Teammates gathered close, offering small gestures, a hand on the shoulder, a seat at every meal, a space in the gym left open beside him. Zanetti, captain and friend, became his steady companion, walking with him through training sessions that felt heavier than before. Yet even as the club rallied, the reality of loss pressed in from all sides. Sports psychologists explain that acute grief can cloud concentration, sap motivation, and distort time. For an athlete whose game depends on split-second decisions and unwavering focus, the mind's turmoil becomes its own opponent. Research shows that nearly 1 in 3 elite athletes will struggle with anxiety or depression after a personal loss, their performances haunted by memories and what-ifs. In those first weeks, Adriano tried to channel his pain into football. He played, he scored, and he dedicated each goal to his father. But teammates noticed the change, a distance behind his eyes, a fatigue that no amount of rest could erase. The locker room's solidarity was real, but it could only reach so far. The weight of grief, invisible but immense, settled over every aspect of his life. The emperor remained on the field, but the ground beneath him had shifted, and the people around him could only watch and hope their support would be enough. Long nights began to outnumber early mornings. Adriano's absences from training grew more frequent, with club officials sometimes citing muscle strains, but whispers of heavy drinking and missed curfews filtered into the press. In Milan, headlines shifted from praise to concern, dissecting his every move, weight gain, late arrivals, nights spent in city clubs. The narrative changed. He was no longer just a footballer. He became a symbol of talent slipping away. By 2008, Inter Milan arranged a loan to Sao Paulo, hoping that distance from European scrutiny and a return to Brazilian soil might offer him a chance to recover. Even there, signs of struggle persisted. Reports surfaced of skipped sessions and late-night parties. The media's criticism grew sharper, framing his struggles as personal weakness rather than the fallout of deep grief. Each story added another layer of pressure, making it harder for Adriano to find his footing on or off the pitch. Back in Rio, the old fire flickered. In 2009, wearing Flamengo's red and black, Adriano reclaimed the spotlight, finishing as the league's top scorer with 19 goals and delivering the club's first national title in 17 years. Each strike was a reminder: the power, the left foot, the hunger. None had faded. Yet even in triumph, the shadows remained close. When Roma offered another shot at Europe in 2010, he crossed the Atlantic again. But the spark never caught. By March 2011, Roma ended his contract after just 5 appearances. Experts in athlete welfare point to a missing safety net, noting that clubs still struggled to support players through grief and mental health challenges. Adriano's decision to step away from the elite game was not about ability. It was a choice for peace, a quiet retreat from a world that never truly understood the weight he carried. Even now, top athletes break under invisible pressures that no trophy can shield. Adriano's decision reminds us raw talent remains, but emotional loss rewrites every outcome. In football, as in life, there are no guarantees, only the weight of the human heart. This was one career,